One of my most watched videos is how to make your microphone sound better with OBS Studio. However, half the comments are asking if you need to keep OBS open for the effects to work. So that means that many of you want to make your microphone sound better, but not only to stream in OBS Studio, but also to use in voice chat with your friends or in games. And because of that, I wanted to make a tutorial on Voicemeeter, and yes, this looks very complicated, but most of these things you see we don't really need. So I'm going to explain in a very simple way how you can make your microphone go through Voicemeeter, add effects to it, make it sound better, and then send it wherever you want, whether it's to OBS Studio to use on your stream, or to a game, to Discord, wherever. And before I forget, the sponsor of this video is Fifine with their Fifine AM8, but of course this has no impact on the tutorial itself. Voicemeeter is a standalone program, it is free to use, so this is the link you need to go to. I will put it in the description, or you can just copy it. And then on this page you will see there are 3 versions of Voicemeter. There's the normal one, then banana, and then potato. This is the biggest one. We don't need all of this stuff, but there are some features that this has which the others don't. So we are going to install this right here, just download, and then just run the installer, click on install. And so once you've installed it, there are 2 things you need to remember to do in case you don't hear me anymore. The first one is you go to A1 right here, you click this, then you go to MME, and then you search for your audio device. For me, it's my headphones, and then you click it, and then as you can see, it will be selected as a hardware out. And then the second thing you need to do is you change your audio device. It will probably have been changed to Voicemeeter VAIO3. We want to keep this video simple, so we're not going to do that. We'll just select our speakers, and in my case that goes to my headphones. So at this point you should have Voicemeeter Potato opened, the A1 output is set to your headphones, and then your normal audio device is also whatever your headphones are. And I just realized I selected the wrong headphones, it should be this one. Alright, if you still can't hear audio, then you just go to your audio devices, you change it to something random, and then you change it back to your headphones, and then it should work. Now quickly, I know this looks very complicated, but we're really only gonna use this column right here and then this right here for the output, and that's really all we're going to do in this video. That's enough to send our microphone to Voicemeeter. Actually, this input right here, you can click it and you can just select your microphone. For me, it's this one, Fifine microphone. By the way, you can right click on the title and then you can just call it mic, for example. So my microphone comes in right here on the top. I just selected it, Fifine microphone. It comes in from the top into Voicemeeter. Then these effects, which we will set up in this video, that's what this video is about. These effects here will be applied. And then after that, on the bottom, it is being sent to A1 and to B2. A1 is our headset, which we select here on the top right. This is our speakers or whatever you're monitoring with. And then it's also sent to B2. And B2 is whatever you select in your game, in Discord, wherever. And so right now, as you understand how this works, we can now apply the effects to the microphone that will make any microphone sound good. I will take you to a step-by-step process, but it's super important that you do not skip anything. I've made this type of tutorial for OBS Studio. People always say that it really works, and it works because it's a specific process. If you skip one step, everything might be messed up. And so to make this a bit more clear, you can just right click the titles and then add a slash there, because we really don't need any of these titles. But for now, we're just gonna focus on the microphone. This is what the microphone also sounds like. It's again the Fifine AM8. And before I forget, 2 really important settings that you need to know is you go to menu right here. There are 2 things you need to enable. The first one is system tray, and then you just click menu again. It will now be enabled. And the second one is run on Windows Startup. So you also click that again. And then now if you close Voicemeeter Potato, it will still be right here in the system tray or right here. You can always click to open it. And now it will also start when your PC is booting. However, if you don't want that, you can always disable it right here. What I like about this USB microphone specifically is that it's pretty tall, which means that it's not far from your mouth. So even without a microphone arm to bring it closer to your mouth, it sounds pretty warm. Some other mics are this tall and then they're very far from your mouth, which means that you sound very distant and hollow, and that also introduces background noise. You need to speak into it like this, and that's really important. So let's start with the whole sequence I was talking about. The first thing is that you need to talk correctly into your microphone. microphone. For example, this one, I could talk into it like this from the front. Maybe I think that's the way, and then I do this the whole time, but secretly I've been doing it wrong, and you really hear the difference. You would be surprised how many people talk into it in the wrong way. So search for the specific microphone that you're using. Now, the only thing left before we start doing the EQ is that we need to make sure that right here your microphone is showing a correct starting balance. So right now when I'm talking, it's a bit too quiet. I'm talking pretty loudly, and I should be about right here on the mixer. And so before you start using this to boost your volume, for example, which you don't really want to do, you will either need to look for a gain knob on your microphone if you have one, or use the Windows sound settings. And actually the sound settings are always a starting point, so you should right click your sound settings, go to sounds. And now that I remember, I'm on Windows 10 right here, I think. You might not find it there. You might have to go to your sound settings, so I'll just open them like this. And then when you scroll down on Windows 11, you will find something like advanced sound settings. It will look like this, but it will say something different. For me, it's sound control panel now, because for some reason I'm still on Windows 10. There we go. So you want to go to recording, then you want to find your microphone. For me, it's right here, find microphone. You double click it, then you go to levels on top, and then you just want to make sure that this isn't set to something like 10 or 20. In theory, you should be able to set it to 100, but for some microphones, this might give you a hiss and a bad sound. So a safe thing to do is to set this to 80, for example. Just click on OK, and then at this point, what you do depends on whether you have a gain knob or not. I, for example, have one. It is right here. It's the top knob. And if you look at the volume mixer, if I increase the gain, it will also go up right here. If you don't have a gain knob right here on your microphone, you will have to do everything right here in the properties. And basically you just start out at 80. If it's way too quiet, you set it to 90, maybe 100. Or if it's speaking for some reason, you can always lower it, click on OK, test again. Just make sure you're about in this area right here. Okay, 80 for me. And so then the first effect we want to do is the denoiser. Basically, you should just stop talking. Make sure that A1 is enabled so you can hear yourself. So you just listen to the background noise and hiss and whatever you're hearing. And then you increase the denoiser by clicking and holding and then moving it up until you don't really hear the background noise anymore. Do keep into account that the more you move this up, the stronger the effect will be also while you're talking. So you don't want to do this too much. And to be honest, you can also set this to 2 or 3. Then do all of the other effects, and then at the end you can always tweak a bit with the denoiser because everything might change once we applied all the other effects. The next thing you want to do is we want to do the EQ, after that the compression and the noise gate, which is these settings, but don't worry, I will make it very simple. It is very simple once you only use what you need. So I will turn this off. By the way, I right clicked right here to open the custom settings, and the same thing is for the EQ. If you click it, you will enable or disable the EQ. If you right click it, then you will open the settings. So we're also gonna make this very simple. We're gonna disable the last two. We don't really need these for a simple setup. So for the first one, you do two things. You move the slider up till about 80. It's hard to aim. I think you can you can right click, yes. And then you just select 80, enter, and then you click this right here. This is just a low-cut filter that will remove rumble sounds. This frequency sounds really bad into your voice. If you want to understand what this is, it's basically a frequency graph of your audio. The left one is low sounds, bass sounds, the mid is the midtones, and the high is the high pitch sounds. So the first column is done. You just set this to 80 Hz. You select this right here for a low cut. Then the second column, you want to set this to about 120. So just click and drag down till about 120, or well, right click 120. Then the decibels as a starting point, let's just do +3. And then the last one right here, you want to drag this to 2. Then the third one, right click on it, set it to 1000. The decibels, drag them down to about -4, -5. We will adjust some things later, but I will just give you the whole setup so you just have a few knobs to tweak instead of doing everything. And then the last knob, you want to set this to about 2. Actually, let's drag it to 1. So 1000 -5 and 1. And then the fourth column, you want to set this to 5000. Let's do this +2, +3. I'll do +2 to be safe. And then drag this down to about 1 to 2. Let's choose 1 right now. Now I want you to keep in mind that I'm heavily simplifying this and it won't be perfect for everyone. I just gave you a curve right now that will boost your bass sounds a bit. It will take away the mids, which will make the mic sound less muddy. And then it will boost the highs a bit so you sound a bit more crisp. And you can also hear this is what I sound like without the EQ. And then this is what I sound like with. Now, very important, if you want to make adjustments, there's only 3 things you need to change. It's this knob right here, this decibel, and then this one. So the middle one, if you move this down, you will sound way more like a professional broadcaster, but if you do it too much, it will sound very muddy. If you move this too high, you will sound very hollow, like you have a cheap microphone or you're in a badly treated room, something like that. So I usually like to move it down a bit under 0. The left will be for your bass sounds. Now it will sound very flat. Now it will sound way too boomy. So you just search for the perfect one right here for you. And then this column will be for the highs. If I do it too much, it will be too crisp. If I do it too low, that also won't sound good. So just adjust these 3 knobs right here until you're happy. And at that point, close the settings. It is right here. You can disable them, you can enable them. And then after that, it's time for the compressor and the gate. And this is really interesting because that will level all your sound. If you talk really quiet, it will boost the volume. If you shout, it will pull it back. And for that, we're gonna right click either of these 2. It opens the same settings. This right here is the compressor. And then this on the bottom here is the gate. We want our audio to be as high as possible right here between 0 and -10. Whether we are talking very quiet or we are shouting or talking normally, it should be all around here. So what you should do is pretty simple. Make sure the input gain is set to 0. Make sure the ratio is set to 2. Make sure threshold is all to the right. Then you talk pretty quiet. Like I would never talk quieter than this on stream. So then I move the input gain to the right and I will keep moving it to the right till this quiet talking is going above -10. I probably will have to boost 20 decibels and then this quiet sound is still going very high. And so right now, if I talk too loud, you will see that it's peaking, especially when I say test, you will see it's completely peaking. So now we want to take the threshold, we want to take this slider right here and then we move it to the left until our loud sounds will not be peaking anymore. Now we're talking about normal talking like this. When I talk a bit more loud, you will see that it's definitely not peaking. Maybe when I say test, okay, that was peaking, but we don't want to do this too much. You don't shout on stream too often. If you're very loud on stream, for example, or with friends, you might be more aggressive right here by moving it to the left. But when I'm talking pretty quiet right now, as you can see, it is often going above -10. Then when I say, hey, it is barely peaking. And then when I talk normally like this, it is between -10 and 0. And that's actually perfect. Now my sound will always be loud enough. And so the next thing we want to do is the noise gate. And we're going to adjust the threshold first because then you will understand what it does. And after that, I will quickly explain these 3 settings on the bottom because then you can customize it to how you want it because that really is different for everyone. And so this slider, the threshold, will basically decide the threshold of how loud sounds need to be in order to trigger the noise gate, open the noise gate. And this will make it so quiet sounds like happening around your microphone will not trigger the mic, but from the moment that you talk, even quiet like this, it will reach the volume threshold and then it will trigger the microphone and it will start recording. So for example, this threshold, if I move it too much, then when I talk quiet, you will see that my volume isn't moving now because it's just not recording the microphone. Hey! When I shout, you see that it did trigger, but other sounds won't. So you move it completely to the left, and I talk very quiet, like I would never talk this quiet on stream. I probably don't want this to trigger the microphone. So I move my threshold to the right and I keep moving it till at some point it will stop recording, it will stop triggering. Move it a bit more. Okay, I think I kind of reached this threshold. So now quiet sound around my mic will not trigger it. We will test if this line moves. Didn't trigger. But I also saw that my first okay didn't trigger, like the okay probably didn't get recorded. Didn't trigger. So I'm gonna move it a bit to the left, like -40 is pretty safe. This will make it so when you stop talking, it will close the gate. From the moment you say anything, it will trigger and it will open the gate. Now the 3 settings on the bottom, what are they doing? Very simple. The attack time will decide that once your microphone hears a specific threshold, once you say something, let's say you don't talk and then suddenly you say test. The first T, that's the first thing your mic hears and that will open the noise gate. And then the attack time is basically a fader that decides how many milliseconds it takes to go from completely blocking sound to being completely opened. I set it to 0 because the first sound it hears, I wanted to record it. Or otherwise, when I say test, the first T will be kind of faded. You will maybe not even hear the T. Then the next is the hold time. And this decides once the noise gate triggers, once it hears my voice and it's loud enough and the noise gate opens, how many milliseconds does it take before it closes in case it doesn't hear anything anymore. So if I say test, then when I stop talking, then it will start counting. 500 milliseconds later, it will close the gate. And that's actually perfect. If you move it too much to the left, it will be very short. For example, hey guys, what's up? Between hey guys and what's up, there's a bit of time. If the whole time is too much to the left, it will close the gate in between and then it will sound very jittery and very weird. You might have heard this with some creators. So just move it to about 500 to 1000 milliseconds. You can take 1000 to be sure. That means when you say test, it takes 1 second of not talking at all before the gate will completely close. And then the release time, this is like the attack. It's the attack is the fader in the beginning. How long does it take? How many milliseconds before the gate completely opens? And then the release time is how long does it take to completely close the gate? So if you say test and then you stop talking, it takes 100 milliseconds of hold time to close the gate. And then it will now take 125 milliseconds to go from gate completely opened to gate completely closed. If you move this to 0 milliseconds, then after 1 second, it will just go to complete silence. That usually doesn't sound that good, so you want to play around with this release time, just test yourself. And so right now our microphone is coming in from the top. The EQ curve is being applied. The background noise is being removed. You can play around with this until it's perfect. The balance between blocking enough noise or suppressing enough noise, but also not really skewing with your voice. Then we are also leveling the sound with the compressor and the gate. And after all of this has happened, it will be sent to B2 right now, which means that in any program, Discord, your game, OBS Studio, you can now select Voicemeeter B2 as your sound device. Again, for example, in OBS Studio, we go to settings, audio, and then right here, I selected it so I can record it. Voicemeeter out B2. This will be your microphone with these effects applied. If at this point you feel that you sound very produced, robotic, like too much, like boosted too much, right click on your compressor and your gate. To be honest, the noise gate, you can completely copy this. Just take -45 to be safe. I'm giving you safe settings. Copy the other things here. This is like a quick just in case it sounds bad. Move the input gain a bit until normal talking will be like about -10, for example, like this. And then just move the threshold a bit until, hey, test. This will be a safe setting. I'm not telling you do this right now. I'm telling you if you feel like it got messed up, that's a way to quickly save it. Now, as mentioned before, I will link the Fifine AM8 in the description. It's a great microphone. There is also a microphone kit, the AM8T. They sent me the pink kit, but this is a microphone with a boom arm. They will both be linked in the description. The mic is available in white, black, and pink. You can check on Amazon how many people are buying this microphone and this kit. Probably 20,000 people or more every month across the listings that they have. It's a really popular product, and I honestly love working with them, or I wouldn't do it that much. If you have any questions, put them in the description. I do read them and I do use them in my next tutorial to make things even more clear. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that I will see you in my next video. Have a nice day.